I hate unexpected phone calls. I don't like Mondays. Usually, I am in a good mood after the weekend, and the dull routine of paperwork seems so dreary. My wife Kate called during lunch to find out when I would be home. She was going shopping and wanted to be back before I arrived. Then the phone rang at 2 o'clock in the afternoon while I was putting the finishing touches on a client database. I tried to put the receiver back on the hook and retrace my last few keystrokes. "Good afternoon, Dave Marshall." No response, just a lot of background noise and some muffled voices. "Good afternoon, Dave Marshall." Still nothing. I almost hung up, thinking it was just kids making prank calls. Then I realized it was my wife Kate. Kate often accidentally redials on her phone. I wouldn't mind getting $1 for every time she does that. Realizing who it was, I decided to eavesdrop on her shopping trip. My birthday was coming up, and I thought I might get some idea of what she wanted to get me. It turned out to be one of my worst decisions that day. "Don't worry, my husband is at work, and I don't need to be home until 5 o'clock. We have 2 hours. That's so nice. Don't stop." That was Kate's voice, of course, and this wasn't a shopping trip. The rustle of clothing and moans continued for several minutes. How long, I don't know. I was in shock. I could tell it was a guy from the grunts he made in response to what Kate was doing with him. Yes, oh. I strained to hear what was happening. One part of me couldn't believe it. There had to be a simple explanation. Another, logical part of my brain was telling me that this was real, that she was cheating on me. I didn't recognize the male voice, so I was almost certain it wasn't one of our friends. So who was it? Why was she cheating on us? Kate's burst of giggles brought me back to the phone call. "Oh God, you're in a hurry. Girl, you're the best. My wife can't hold a candle to you. You're a wizard. Yes, just like that. Don't stop." I knew what he meant. Kate liked the pleasure she could give me, and she also liked the power it gave her over me. Now she was giving that same pleasure to someone else. Some guys might be okay with this. They just sit back, relax, and enjoy. But not me. It was tearing me apart inside. A louder than usual grumble on the phone brought my attention back to what was happening there. Kate mumbled, "Not yet. I want to keep going." Several minutes of silence. Soon, too soon, I heard her start her magic again, and the sounds resumed. "Yes, Kate, I'm almost there. Look, I'm at the peak. Ooh." Another burst of giggles, then Kate's voice again. "God, I thought you'd never stop." "Not always, but today is a special day. You're special." Kate again. "All right, now it's my turn. Just let me undress, then caress me." Rustling of clothes, hastily removed and thrown aside. The creak of springs, the sound of their kisses. When Kate is aroused, she's sensitive to the slightest touch. I can drive her to the edge with gentle caresses on her breasts, stomach, thighs, and knees. This sensitivity makes her lose control, and she always becomes loud and passionate. Her lover, the jerk, just learned about this when she started screaming. You know how to pleasure a woman. Oh yes. The sound of her panting and how he devoured her was driving me mad. I wanted to reach through the phone and strangle them both. Now the sounds I heard were quiet breathing and the creaking of the bed springs as he lay down beside her and she recovered. Kate always enjoys the afterglow of good pleasure, lying still and quiet for 5 or 6 minutes after she reaches her peak. Judging by the silence, that's exactly what was happening. For the next few minutes, there was nothing, then Kate's voice. "Oh my God. You really recover quickly. Let's see how long you can last this time." Oh my God. She wasn't using any protection. When the crazy sounds of my wife and her lover echoed through the phone lines, I finally lost control. I couldn't take it anymore and threw the phone against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, scattering like confetti across the furniture and floor. For the next hour, I sat there in miserable despair, tears streaming down my cheeks. I held my head in my hands and sobbed over what I had lost. How could she do this? She never said she was unhappy with our life. How long had she been doing this? Was I just getting sloppy seconds? And from whom? My marriage was over. She wanted someone else, and I could never share her. I loved her too much for that. I would never become a cuckold. I felt humiliated as a man and as a lover. Her comments about his size made me feel inadequate, and that angered me even more. I decided I would go home, talk to her about it, then pack a bag and leave. Thankfully, we didn't have any children. We hadn't been married long enough to accumulate much, so packing up wouldn't be difficult. The house was rented, and most of the furniture belonged to her. My heart was broken over what I had lost, but I knew I had to be strong to confront her. I gathered my courage, then cleared my desk, preparing to leave. Just as I was packing my briefcase, my secretary knocked and entered. She stopped and stared at my red, swollen eyes. Glancing around the room, her gaze landed on the shattered phone. Concern and worry flashed across her face before she continued with her purpose. "Dave, are you okay? Do you need anything?" Shaking my head, I whispered, "No, I'm fine. I'm leaving a bit early today. I need to take care of some personal matters." "Okay, but before you go, talk to your wife on the phone in my office. She couldn't reach you on your personal line." She glanced again at the shattered phone, its tiny pieces scattered across the red carpet. "My wife? I don't want to talk to her." My voice rose 2 levels as my anger resurfaced. "Tell her I'll see her later." The poor woman looked like she had swallowed something vile, considering my angry response. "I'm very sorry, but she said you would say that. She insisted it's urgent, and that if you don't take the call, don't bother coming home." That cheating bitch demanded that I talk to her. Fine, I'll talk, but on my terms. I'll soon make her realize she's the one who should be worried, not me. Storming past my secretary, I grabbed her phone and pressed the blinking red button on the second line. "What the hell is this crap?" "Dave, just calm down and listen, and I'll explain everything." My anger was uncontrollable, but I decided to give her enough rope to hang herself and then let her know I had heard it all. "Fine, explain." "Oh, that's how it is. I know you're angry, but you hung up a bit sooner than I expected. I thought you'd try to record what I was doing to play it back to me later." "Well, never mind." I cut her off. "You knew I was listening? You did this knowing I might hear what was going on?" "Well, of course I knew. After all, I dialed the number and waited for you to answer before we started. Now, I know this is confusing, so let me clarify. First, I know about your little affair with Debbie and that it's over. This was just to let you know that both sides can play. Now you understand the pain I felt when I found out." I was stunned. She knew about Debbie and me. How could she have found out? It lasted only a month, 5 secret meetings. The guilt was too much, so I ended it. How could she know about it? I hadn't told anyone. Debbie, that bitch, it must be her doing. Debbie was upset that I broke it off with her. She must have told Kate. That was the only plausible explanation I could think of. "Dave? Dave? Are you there?" "Yes, I'm here." My anger had subsided a bit, and my voice was almost back to normal. "Who was that guy you were having sex with? How did you find out about Debbie? Why didn't you just tell me?" "Not in that order. First, Debbie was a little angry that you dumped her and called me, spilling all the juicy details. I'm sure she exaggerated a bit, but it was enough for me to know you had an affair. Why didn't I tell you?" "Well, I thought my way was more impactful. I wanted you to know that pain can go both ways." Kate paused before continuing. "As for who he was, you'll never know. That's part of your punishment. And you'll never know if I really did cheat or if I just made it all up." "What do you mean by if I really cheated?" "I heard you with him. I heard him getting you off. I heard you two having sex. I heard you telling him how much better he was than me." "Well, yes, you did hear something, but did it really happen? Or did I just put on an act to make you think I did?" "Sure, there was a guy, but did I actually let him have sex with me, or was it all a performance?" You have to ask yourself if you think I would really cheat on you, just like I had to ask myself about you. Again, this is part of the punishment. I will never tell you what actually happened. You'll just have to live with it, just like I had to live with what you did. I didn't know what to say. I knew what I had heard, and now she was telling me that it might have all been an act to make me think she was cheating. How was I supposed to deal with that? If I knew for sure, I could react, but not knowing left me with no options. Kate interrupted my thoughts, her voice softer this time. Dave, I never said he was a better lover than you. Only that he was bigger and reached places you couldn't. So, was that also a lie? Or did he really do something with me that you never could? I had to think the same thing when Debbie told me about you too. I stood there, shaking my head, unsure of anything. Was it all real or just a bad dream? I had no answers. Dave, I love you and want us to stay together, but I couldn't stay with you if you didn't truly understand the pain I went through. This was my way of dealing with it. We'll talk about this when you get home, but I have to go now. I love you. She hung up before I could respond. What could I have said anyway? Later, we did talk. I explained everything I had done and why. She cried a lot, and then told me that she could get through it if we both remained faithful from that point on. She never did tell me if she actually cheated. I begged her to tell me the truth so I could process it, but she said it wasn't the right time. 6 months later, things only got worse. I couldn't get it out of my head, and it seemed like we were heading for a breakup. I even refused to have sex with Kate until she produced a note from her doctor stating she was free of STDs. At first, she was hurt, but I told her I wasn't willing to take any risks. She finally understood and agreed. It didn't help. It wasn't the thought of her sleeping with someone else that was killing me. I could have dealt with that. It was the uncertainty that was much worse. Eventually, I moved out of the master bedroom into the spare room to have some privacy. I couldn't be in the same bed with her without getting angry. We hadn't had sex since all this started. Every time I got aroused, an image of her sleeping with him would pop into my head, and it would start all over again. Kate tried to seduce me with lingerie and romantic dinners, but none of it worked. Kate was desperate, but still didn't tell me the truth. As a last resort, we both went to counseling. During the first session, the counselor convinced Kate that if we were going to work through this, she had to tell me the truth. As he put it, it was a cruel and unfair punishment. I know it was painful for her to admit that she had really slept with that bastard, but it gave me the closure I needed. She didn't tell me who it was, only that I didn't know him and that he hadn't met me. Dave, if I tell you who it was, I know you'll go looking for him. You're damn right I will. When I find that jerk, he'll regret ever having sex. The main thing that surprised me was how guilty Kate felt about her revenge and how much she had hurt me. This, more than anything else, convinced me that we would eventually overcome this obstacle. We did move on and stayed together, eventually returning to a more normal marriage. These days, I am more attentive to Kate, and we spend more time together. She says it's because I don't trust her, but we both know it's because we don't want to risk losing each other. I had one ace up my sleeve that Kate didn't know about. She told me I didn't know him and that he had never met me. This gave me my first clue about who that bastard might be. It had to be someone who knew Kate was married and knew about me but hadn't met me. I knew all her friends and she knew mine, so it wasn't one of them. My next investigation led me to her workplace. Maybe it was someone she worked with. I had a business acquaintance who worked at the same firm as Kate, a guy I had helped out a few times. He owed me a favor, so I asked him to discreetly gather any gossip about her and another guy. 2 weeks later, he came back with an answer. George, one of the sales reps, had a reputation as a ladies' man, and he had been circling around Kate. Apparently, she had finally yelled at him to leave her alone, saying that it would never happen again. She admitted she had made a mistake, but wanted to save her marriage rather than start an affair. You know, Dave, if it were anyone else, I might not have told you, but this jerk really pisses me off. He's ruined several good marriages and doesn't care about the people he hurts. I knew that if I did anything, it would come back to me, and Kate would never forgive either herself or me, so I kept my anger in check. All the while, I kept a close eye on that bastard, waiting for my chance. I took the opportunity to get a little revenge on Debbie. An email to her husband describing a birthmark on her left breast and an embellished account of our passionate affair ensured that she would regret her phone call to Kate. Funny enough, she never thought about the consequences of her actions, about how much she could lose just like I did. Good things come to those who wait, and everything couldn't have worked out better. To make my revenge even sweeter, It happened exactly on the third anniversary of that phone call. While I waited, hidden by the hibiscus bushes lining the driveway to the luxurious two-story house, it was dark and cold. This was the home of his latest lover and her unsuspecting husband. He was having an affair with the wife of one of the partners at his firm, which made him vulnerable. I knew I was completely safe. He had never met me, plus I wore a balaclava to hide my face. The cold seeped into me. To distract myself, I went over the plan in my head again. Wait until he walks past me on his way to his car parked on the street. Quickly step out and grab him by the shoulder. Spin him around, then punch him once in the gut and once more in the face. After that, it would depend on his reaction. I felt the crumpled piece of paper in my jacket pocket, reassuring me that everything was in order. The anger never truly left me, and just thinking about that jerk reignited it. At least it kept me warm, driving away the cold. The partner returned home from a late meeting to find George beaten, bleeding, and tied up in the driveway. A printed note pinned to his shirt detailed George's affair with his wife and several other women, listing all the affairs the bastard had had over the past year, with names. I disposed of all the clothes and shoes I wore in 5 different trash bins across the city. George ended up jobless. The police had many suspects among the husbands of other women, but they never got to me. The incident made it into the daily newspapers, with pictures showing him being put into an ambulance. It's impossible to keep something like that secret, and with all the publicity, his wife found out everything and divorced him. Kate was silent all week, but eventually told me what had happened to George. I asked her if he was the guy she had been involved with, and she finally admitted that it was him. Serves the bastard right. Too bad I wasn't the one who did it. Well, I'm glad it wasn't you. I wouldn't want to lose you now that we've finally sorted everything out. Kate curled up next to me and gently kissed me on the lips. I smiled. One part of the smile was for her, the other for the secret I was keeping. I had messed up badly and paid the price. Finally, I had gotten my revenge, and now I could move on with my life.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments.